Welcome to Heather's Long Box. Once again, I have Cesar Morales, Dracula's Wolf, with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good on this fine Friday. It's nice and sunny with a couple of clouds here in New Mexico. With the barometer reading of, I don't care. All right, that's good. I'm good for
TGIF.
yeah. Yes, it is.
So, today we were going to talk about shipping and storage of comics.
Yeah,
Uh, we kind of
it's
talked a little bit about it beforehand.
shipping and storage alone is a collector's nightmare or a blessing. It all depends on who you deal with. So it's going to be nice to kind of dig into this.
And when I know from previous show that you are a comic collector, but your collection, I mean, you have a huge wall there behind you. Is your collection mostly slabs or raw?
You know, I like to I call myself an equal opportunity collector. I do slabs. I should call it slabs, right? Slabs and raws. Slabs. I just actually invented something.
Making his own
I'm a slabs collector.
terminology.
I'm a slabs collector. I do slabs and raws, but primarily, I got to be honest with you, I do lean towards the slabs. This is my wall of art. These are tins, and these are wood art, and it goes all the way up to the ceiling. It's the other wall that have all my collection. You know, it's I do prefer slabs because and I talked about it on the last show is that I don't read comics. So I do like to display them. I like to present them. They're talking pieces when I have guests over and come into my room. And you know what? People don't might have they have strong opinions about that. Oh, you're entombing the comic. You gotta let them breathe. They're not meant to be entombed. They're meant to be read. Okay, that's fine. That's your opinion, not mine. But I do have raw books that eventually will be slabbed. See how that works? Um, but when you buy a raw book, and people will tell you, oh, in my opinion, it's a 4.0, 5.0. It's a good, very good. Sometimes the reason why I like to go with the slab because you already know what you're buying. So if it says a 5.0, 4.0, 7.0, you know what you're getting. A lot of times, unless you actually have someone you buy books from on the regular and you do trust them, a lot of strangers will give you a price on a raw book on a slab number that they think it is. So, hey, I think this raw book is a 5.0. So they'll give you a slab 5.0 price on a raw book, which is a no-no. You don't do that because what happens is you do the payments, you do goods and services, always do goods and services, people. If you do PayPal, always goods and services, protect yourself because you just never know. And you might get that book back and it's missing a page. It's not what you think it is, even though they sent you pictures, they didn't disclose something. So, and now you're asked out unless you protected yourself with the goods and services. But if you were to like, oh, I trust you, I'm going to give it just free and clear, friends and family, you're going to be screwed.
I
So,
just I don't
yeah,
understand how you're buying a book based on its potential
yes.
value and not the value that it is at the time.
Well, the other thing I recommend if you're going to buy a raw book is that you always ask for pictures, as many pictures as possible. So you want a very nice close up of the front and the back cover. Have them take close ups of the edges of each corner, front
Because
and
sometimes
back.
those ticks along the spine don't show up in a photo.
Sometimes they don't. It all depends on the picture as well. A lot of times they might do a live video, not live, but they'll record a very detailed look, and they'll have their phone and just kind of go over the spine to see if there's any ticks, any color breaking ticks, any imperfections, any color rubs, anything that might affect a grade. That's a good way to do it. That's how I do it because the videos kind of don't lie. A picture can cheat,
Yeah,
and
I know about that.
Yeah, exactly. So people will have the tendency to, oh, it's a great book, and you also want them to open up the inside. See, make sure there's no foxing on the inside covers. Very bad. Unless you're a guy who don't care and you're not going to grade it, and it's decent reader copy, then you're gonna be good. But if you're one who wants to grade it and maybe flip it down the road, you really want a high grade, especially if you're paying for a high grade. So I have the tendency to go to slabs. You know what you're getting, and it just looks nice when you present it on the wall. But I do have some raws that are eventually going to be entombed, as they call it, inside a nice piece of plastic
Now, have you heard any stories about people breaking open their slabs and
all
then
the time,
turning in for a
all the time,
different grade?
all the time. There are people who will see. There's a lot of the older generation slabs that have been slabbed before this whole trend of cleaning and pressing your books before you get it slabbed.
Okay.
So you can just tell sometimes when you look at a slabbed comic book that it has yet to be cleaned and pressed because it either has stains in the back or it has a wave. You can see the ripple, and people say you'll see people post and say never been cleaned or slabbed because it's obvious. So if you have a book at a 7.0 and you're going, oh man, this is great. I just paid 7.0 price for a book. I'm gonna crack it, send it off to get it clean, slab, resubmit it, and there's possibilities of 7.0s, 5.0s, 4.0s can go up 2 grades. And in the world of pricing, 2 grades it's a pretty big bump when it comes to
Oh
money.
yeah.
So there are tons of people who do this all the time. Now, there's a caveat, and it has happened. Sometimes it is the Russian roulette of comics. You break open a comic and you do your thing and you send it in and it comes back lower than what you originally had.
It's the gamble you take, though.
It is a gamble you take. People say it also depends on the guy who's grading your book. You know, if someone kicked his dog and pissed in his Cheerios, he goes to work, he's going to look at your book and go, ugh, you know, and he'll grade it lower. I'm not saying I hope it's not the case, but everyone's eyes are different, even though these graders should have a template and they have a policy to go by. But it happens, and many in these comic book groups they'll post. I sent this 9.4 in, hoping for a bump, and it came back at 9.2, and the commenters will clown you, as in, well, you should have just left it the way it was, and oh, you got to be greedy, and oh. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
they laugh at you. They laugh at you. They
It
tease you.
happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
So
would never.
can we back up a little bit because you did mention a good point about cleaning and pressing. And
Mhm.
pressing may sound obvious to some people, but can you go into a little detail about that?
So cleaning and pressing, and there are a lot of people who are just getting into this hobby and are learning a lot of the buzzwords, right? So a lot of times you may hear cleaning press. What is cleaning press? Well, today's technology nowadays, a lot of pressers will use um, the same machines that they would use to press shirts. You know, two little steel plates, and you put the decal on the shirt, and you press it and all that stuff. Well, they use that now to basically flatten out the cover, the front cover, and the back cover of the books that might have waves, wrinkles, a tick. A tick is on the spine where it's a little small indentation. Some pressers will are able to press out those ticks. Some ticks are deeper and color breaking, meaning that when it is indented, it breaks color literally.
Yeah.
So there'll be a
Yeah.
white, sort of a white line along. You can't press those out. Um, it's a science. They use a certain temperature on the presser, on the heat press, because it is applying heat. Um, there's a cool down process. There is putting in certain sheets in between the books so the staples don't bleed through to the other pages because you are putting pressure on the book.
Especially
So
the older
so there's
newsprint books. Yeah.
oh yeah, it all depends. Square bound books from the 1960s and 70s are also very hard because it's a square spine. Cleaning is even a little bit more difficult. There are books that just get dirty. If you have a book from the 1960s and 50s, they're going to get around and get fingerprints and smudge and whatever.
Hostess
They have
apple
ways to
pie
clean those. They
glaze.
have, listen, it's incredible how what the patience it takes. And a good presser will show you a before and after of their portfolio of stuff they've worked on before, and it is night and day. Literally, it's dark and light of a back cover or front cover. There are things that they have now, and I have a good buddy of mine, Cash, with the Sinbad Comics. I'm gonna do a shout out because he is fantastic.
Ding, ding,
He
ding,
actually did
ding.
a he actually did a YouTube video of this thing that he bought, and he sampled it where it runs a stream of water over the book, and it
Oh,
slowly cleans out the dirt, and then you
so
let
you're
it
getting
dry.
the impurities out of the paper?
Yeah, it's weird. It's I even made a comment in his YouTube. I'm like, huh, you're wiping out water stains using water because it also does
Yeah.
clean hard water stains, and
You'll have to
it's
send me a link to that
you know
video.
what I am. It
Okay,
is
thank you.
I will send you a link to that, and it was very educational. It kind of blew my mind. I'm like, this guy's actually running water over a cover of a book, and it wasn't the whole book, right? It's just a cover, and it's a constant flow of water that he let it flow about an hour. So it's crazy. But the technology and the know-how now that pressers have, and I have a lot of good friends of mine who are pressers. Uh, I have particular ones I use all the time. Um, you know what? There's even a Facebook page that's strictly only for pressers. So if you're like, hey, I need someone
Oh, you
to
didn't tell
clean
me
my
that.
book, there's a list of pressers who are vetted, a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback from people who've used them. So there are sites out there, as we all know, there's sites for everything on Facebook.
And
So
probably a YouTube video
there's
for
also YouTube videos of
demonstration.
how to's to do it yourself. If you want to dabble in pressing and cleaning, which machines to buy, how to use it. YouTube, listen, YouTube University, as we all know, that's
I
where
can't
people
even
learn.
iron a shirt.
Well, you know what? Some people actually use irons to press their books because they use a certain type of parchment paper and stuff like that. So there's many ways of doing it. I personally, I'm a little bit of a chicken shit to do it.
Yeah.
There are tons of people who, when they start pressing it, you always want to try on low quality books, no keys, nothing major, stuff that you have in your long box that's been sitting there since
Oh, yeah, you don't want to
1978.
experiment on something
You don't want to experiment on
valuable.
something on a you don't want to experiment on the first Punisher, right? So
Right,
you
right.
practice and practice and practice, and that's one of the things I've been hearing about pressers is just practicing and getting to the point where you think you're good enough to move up to the next level.
Now, I mean, I am familiar with pressing. I haven't had anything pressed yet. I would not, I received some artwork that unfortunately got damaged in the process. And
Yeah.
someone said, take your iron. I'm like, I don't own an iron. And first of all, your domestic or your home appliance iron has the holes for the steam and everything. I wouldn't risk that.
Yeah.
So when you're pressing the cover, the front cover and the back cover, does it help improve the integrity of the spine,
Uh,
or is
it's
this process kind of weaken things?
no, you know what? It doesn't weaken. Now it is very cautious. If you have a book that is brittle and really damaged, may not be a good idea to press it. From what I hear now, mind you guys, I'm not a presser and I don't clean books, but I've been around the community and I have friends who do it to know enough that some people won't touch certain books because they might do more damage than good. If books are too brittle and very delicate, I don't know if you want to put it under a press. Now, there's some guys out there who go, I'll press anything because I'm that good. Fantastic. Give me your name. Just show me your work because we'll go to you all the time. Um, but I don't think it damages the integrity or weakens the book. If anything,
Okay.
it improves, smooths out the covers, removes any kind of bumps, dents that is not color breaking, and that's what you want to do if you're going to send off your book to go get graded. Because mind you, you're going to look at a book that was once wrinkled and dented and ticks, and they're going to grade it what they grade it. It could be a 3.0, 2.5, whatever it is. You get that same book and give it some good treatment, it could come back to a 5.0, 4.5. And when it comes to money, yeah, the higher number is going to be worth more money.
And speaking of money, the prices are going to vary depending on who you go to, or
Mhm.
the condition of your book. But
Right.
generally speaking, is there like an estimate you could shoot out there?
You know what? Some people charge 20 a book, maybe 30 if it's clean also. I don't quote me on these numbers, but it also depends on how what kind of book you're sending in, right? If it's a pretty high grade book, if it's a Hulk 181, for example, if it's the first appearance of Wolverine, um, the presser might go, this is a higher end book. I'm going to spend more time on it, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that
So
makes
it's
sense.
worth their time. It's whatever they think is what their time is worth, right? But if it is a minor key, something like that, it might be like 15 bucks a book, and all that stuff. So the other thing you might want to take into consideration is that many of these pressers will actually also send the book on your behalf to go get graded from them,
Okay.
right? Um, that you just fill out the paperwork, you get charged your card and all that stuff, but they'll do the paperwork and they'll send it out directly. I prefer that because it's like, hey,
From their
just
hands to
just
their
go ahead.
hands
You
instead
know
of
what? It
double
makes no sense,
backing.
right? It makes no sense for you to do your work and then ship it to me so I can ship it to the slab, right? To go to
Yeah.
CGC or
Keep your grubby
CBCS.
little hands off of it until it gets slab.
You know what? And I don't want to risk another trek from point A to point B. What if something happens in between, right?
Right.
So I would rather have it go from there pressing straight to go get slabbed. I get charged for it or what have you. And there are people who send in thousands, hundreds, and thousands of books that go get slabbed. They're going to wait a long time. But if you're one who is doing this for your own PC, your own personal collection,
Hmm.
you'll get it when you get it.
Right. Well, and I think that too, for me, having a professional handle it and then give it to grading services is a little bit of peace of mind because they're most likely going to be insured. And if you're, a collector or in this industry, don't piss off your postman or postwoman.
We have seen, and this will go in, and it's a very good segue leading into shipping.
Well, I do want to ask you one more question
Yes,
about slabs. So for people who have broken slabs, I did
yes.
have like in my one group, somebody said, "Hey, what's the best way to crack open a slab?" Any
Uh,
suggestions?
So, two things. Many people don't know that if you receive a broken slab from CGC, or you have a broken slab, or you happen to be carrying it from one room to the other, and the dog, tripped over you and you fell and you cracked your slab, you can send it to CGC or from whatever CGC, CBCS, PGX, uh, and they will do is they will do a reholder, meaning they will reslab it for a small fee. I think it might be $35 or so, but they will reslab your book, your broken slab, for a small fee.
But they're
If
not
you
going to they're not going to go back and
No,
regrade
they're
it
not
or
gonna do it. They
anything.
are
It's
literally
just the final process of
they're gonna
slabbing.
keep you. They're gonna keep the same number it was graded. They are literally going to just reslab it and most likely put the same title label that you had on the old one and just drop inside the new one. They're just gonna fix it. Now, if you get it damaged straight from CGC, you give those guys a call and say, "You sent me some damaged slabs." They're
Hey,
gonna say, "Pack it right
fires.
back up and send it right back out," and they will obviously do it for free. So, um, but if you want to crack open a slab,
Mhm.
some people say it's very easy. Some people say CGCs is easier than CBCS. Some people say CBCS is easier than CGC. My recommendation to you is a good YouTube University. They will show you step by steps what tools to use, where to crack, what location, how to snap it open, so you can just either keep it raw. There's a lot of people who buy slabs who do not like slab books and prefer raw, but they'll buy a slab to crack it open to have it raw. So that's what they.
Well, and I
That's
know somebody who did that because they wanted to complete their comic book set. They
yeah,
wanted to read the book.
that's
Um,
right.
I don't remember if I showed this one yet or not. Um,
Yes.
so this. So I've got the plastic over it,
Yeah.
but this is slabbed. There's the back cover. Um, this one's a 9.8,
Hmm.
and it's signed right there.
Who's the same by?
Carilla.
Yeah.
And you know what? So when Dave was here in the studio Wednesday, I kept saying Lucado. I don't know what the heck was with me getting people's names wrong. His name's Lucio, Lucio,
Hmm.
and I'm saying Lucado. What a moron.
Yeah. Podcast 101. If you're going to talk about people's names, make sure you get the name right.
I did, and I know his name. I had a brain fart. I didn't
Yeah.
eat. I don't know. So this one came to me. Now this does not have the same grading. It's the same subject. Um, Punchline. Oh, we got a glare here.
Oh,
There
there we
we go.
go.
Punchline. This is a 9.2. I wasn't too worried about the grading myself. This is also signed. I just wanted it to go with the other piece. There's kind of like a running theme here, and
Well, yeah. Well, speaking about grading, many people don't know, and once again, I like to talk to people as if they're new to the hobby and they're wondering how things work. Um, to those people who know that, hey guys, you guys could nod your head and go, oh, here we go again. But in case you're wondering, if you send a book in to go get graded and it comes back at a certain number and you're like, I thought it was going to come back at 9.8, but it came back at 9.6 or 9.4, why? Many of these books come with grading notes. So what happens is once you have an account with CGC, CBCS, that you put in that SKU number that comes with the book, and it will have grading notes of why it was graded a certain number, which is kind of cool because you're like, now these
there
graders
might
are
be
human.
something you didn't notice.
Yeah, absolutely. These graders are human. Do they make mistakes? Absolutely. Because you're gonna look and go, I don't see what he's talking about. So that's when, guess what? They'll bust it open. They'll probably do another press or just send it in again and see what number comes back. And people have done that, and it comes back the same number it was originally. So now you just spent more money to get it
Yeah.
reslabbed and regraded and all that. So it's a preference. But check your graders notes if you really are wondering why did your book come back so low? Or you might go, I did not see that. Or okay. And mind you, it does happen that some of these grading companies will damage your books. It has happened. It and it sucks. I've seen it time and time again.
And there's so many people they want that 9.8, but personally to me a 9.6 isn't really that bad.
You know what? A 9.6 is pretty close to 9.8. You will rarely see 9.9s. I have seen 10.0s. Very, very rare, but they do exist. 10.0, basically, I mean, that book came from the presser and straight to grade. It wasn't even touched by human hands. Um, but you know what? I'm not a numbers person. If you saw my collection, I think some of you who did see the last podcast on my wall, I have numbers from 2.5s, 1.8s to 9.8s. I don't care. I don't resell my books, so I don't care about the numbers. It's just kind of cool to have. So, but if
I
you're a
just
reseller, I get it. You want those 9.8s all day.
Well, there is that one picture and that story going around where the girlfriend took a magic marker
That's right.
and totally defiled
Yeah.
the cover.
Yeah.
And
In case you're wondering, people, go look up, go to the Googles and type in, I think it's called Ex Girl, Ex Revenge Ex Girlfriend's copy. Um, so she basically had, and I think it was an Amazing Spider-Man number 14. I could be wrong, but I think it's the first Green Goblin. And she basically ruined that book, and that person had it graded. But it was a, I wish, Heather, I don't know if you could actually find it and just kind of read what she
trying
wrote
to
on it,
look.
but it is hilarious. Talk about vindictive. My heart, every time I see that picture, as a matter of fact, anyone in the community, whoever sees that picture, their heart sinks because of what she did. But at the same time, it is pretty effing funny.
Well, you do laugh because you know, women. What can I say?
I'm not
I'm
saying
a
shit.
woman.
You
But
you
I would
can say
I
it.
but see, I value my comics. I wouldn't do that and go after somebody's property.
Yeah, that's pretty. I got to be honest. Whether he deserved it or not, maybe he did. We don't
Pretty
know, but
brutal.
it's pretty vindictive. Yeah, I can't even think about it. That's why I'm so nice to my wife.
Let's see, Revenge Ruined comic book, and it's not popping up. It's
Uh,
giving me comics. Um,
yeah, we'll find it for you guys, for the
Ruins.
audience. Maybe you know what? I'll tell you what, Heather. Let's
Can't
find it.
type.
Oh, great! There you go. Now you're gonna see it.
Yes, I need my
If we can't find it, audience, what we'll do is we'll find it. We'll have it pre up for the next show, and you guys could actually we'll read what it said and actually show you pictures of what it looked like. But it's brutal. I can't tell you anything. You got to see
It's
it for
giving
yourself.
me a comic book called Ruins, so I better stop using that
Yeah,
word.
yeah. You know what, Heather? We'll get it teed up for the next show.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about because shipping?
Mm. Well, listen, people. We all know that shipping can be stressful, right? For anything. If you're buying anything from Amazon, if you're having a family member send you a family heirloom or whatever it is, shipping is always a little scary because we have heard of missing packages, stolen packages. My favorite. There's nothing more I hate than thieves. Thieves get my blood boiling. It drives me crazy. Um, but shipping with either UPS, FedEx, USPS, whatever your preference is, it's a little sketchy. And when you are spending a lot of money on a book, and we're talking, some people drop a lot of money. That's why some comic book collectors will buy a ticket and fly to that state and meet up with that person so they could just hand it over to them.
Well, we're
Um,
talking like comic
we're,
books
no,
that
no,
are
we're
worth
talking people who are
big
dropping
time
like
money.
10K, 5K.
Yeah, yeah.
Hell, if it's $100,000 book, oh yeah, I'm buying a ticket.
And if you can afford that on a comic book, then flying out is
You
probably
can
really no
afford it.
big
You can
deal.
afford a plane ticket, right? If anything happens when it's in my hands, that's on me. But that person's like, absolutely, fly your ass over here. I'm gonna hand it over to you. Like in the movies, right, with the briefcase that's handcuffed to your wrist,
Yeah,
with the Halliburton, briefcase.
you have me
So
snorting over here.
it's if it's a Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna have bodyguards and all that stuff around me. But even for a couple $1,000 book, it's it's nerve wracking. Um, Hopefully the book will show up in time, and all that stuff. And you're waiting. Some people take days off work and just waiting because they don't want anything dropped off at their front porch. Um,
Porch
but
pirates. Yeah.
it's happened to me.
Really?
Oh
Oh,
yeah, I lived I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Now that I'm in New Mexico, I had to get out of the rat race, and I was expecting 6 books, 2 slabs, or 5 books, 2 slabs, and 3 raw books, and it was expected that day. And I was watching. We're having lunch in the living room. I was even with my wife, and as we had the door closed and everything, and I heard it's just it still upsets me. I heard a small clicking sound of my gate. It has a latch, right? You know, the latch and it makes that
yeah,
sound
yeah.
when you open it goes of my front porch. And I in my head I'm like, oh, the mailman dropped off my stuff. Well, come to find out, I didn't get up right away. I left it there for, whatever. I'll get it right now. And I get up, gone. And the mail and it said delivered and everything. So that clicking sound, I assume, wearing my Sherlock Holmes hat, was the guy who picked up the books and slowly closed the gate, right?
But
So
this is
what
what I don't
happens is,
get is people stealing packages and they don't necessarily know what's in them.
well, this is the thing. You're absolutely correct. People steal packages that they don't, I don't care. I'm gonna sell it anyways or pawn it or whatever it is. What it is that that person, now mind you, my porch in that house at that time was not street facing. In other words, if you walk in the street, you can see a line of boxes. No, no, no. It turns the corner and it's hidden by a wall.
So they were
So
casing
so
the
what they were
place.
either
They were
casing or they were following the mailman. And then when they see the mailman walking with a bunch of boxes, they'll wait for the mailman to leave and go right behind him. You know, there are people who follow UPS people, FedEx people, and USPS people around from a distance to see if they are dropping off boxes or anything like that. It is so. Anyways, I put in a claim. I got nothing out of it with USPS. They're like, "Show me the box that it's empty." I'm like, "That's the point, you morons.
they took the
I don't
full
have a
thing.
box to show you that it was broken into." So, needless to say, I called every single LCS around and said, "Hey, listen, if you see these books being sold at your place with this serial number, please call me. They were mine. They were stolen." Of course, I didn't hear anything out of it. Lesson learned. After that, I said, it only happened once. I said, never. And I've had books delivered all the time. It happened once. I got burned once. From that point on, I had all my books sent to a PO box,
Mhm.
um, where I could sleep safe at night. And it worked. And to this day, luckily now in this area that I live in, New Mexico, it's a very nice area, very safe. But we have one of those. This is my first time ever having one of those mailboxes where it's in the corner where everybody has a key and they have all the slot and all that stuff. So you don't have your stuff dropped off at your house. It's dropped off at this,
Oh, okay.
right.
I
You know
have
what I'm talking about with a key and then right.
this
Everyone
my
has a
this is
mailbox
my
key.
mailbox,
Right.
and so I have a small box like this, and if my packages are bigger, they go in a bigger box. I also
That's
have a
correct.
PO box, but the ladies there have complained. If your package is too big for your box, you have to hurry and pick it up. We can't store it long term. Like
Right.
it's a week.
They have their thing. So now that I have this mailbox and the bigger box for my slabs, I sleep easy. I have nothing to worry about. So you know what, people? I would, unless if you live in an area that you're feeling a little uncomfortable, I recommend getting a PO box for your comic books only, or any kind of packages. Really, at that point, um,
Yeah,
it's a
because
good sound advice.
especially at Christmas time, there's certain times of the year
Even
that
worse.
you're more susceptible to, porch pirates. Um,
I praise these people who set up traps for pirates. If you look on YouTube, porch pirates being caught, they're very they engineer ways to catch these people in the act. Now, I didn't have a ring, I didn't have any of that stuff, so I never knew what the dude looked like. Whatever,
yeah.
majority of people have rings and those kind of type of cameras on their door.
Well, Ring can access other cameras in the neighborhood, so you can see what's going on around in the neighborhood. You can see the kids playing in the street or whatever.
Yeah, I got to tell you. there might be less and less people trying to steal because they know they're going to be caught on video in their face. With COVID, it was very hard because everyone's already covering their face as it is, right? With the
Mhm,
mask.
mhm,
And
mhm.
you throw on a hoodie and wear a mask, no one's going to even look at you and going, why is this guy wearing a mask and a hoodie at 90-degree weather in June, right? No, everyone at the time is wearing masks and stuff like that. So it was easy to masquerade. Um, but
Well, and
reinstated returns.
unfortunately now there's some people who have had a surge of COVID due to some Comic Con and concerts,
I did hear. Yeah, I did hear.
and
Comic Cons are
Chicago,
opening back. Yeah.
yeah, and Chicago has increasing numbers of monkeypox.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well,
Yeah,
C2E2 is coming in Chicago. The
not
Comic
good.
Cons are back. Comic Cons are back now, and people are itching to go to cons and be amongst their people. If you do decide that, a lot of cons, the last one, San Diego Comic Con, that just happened a couple weeks ago or last weekend, I think it was. Either way,
Yeah,
they
San
rec-
Diego was last weekend.
yeah they had you wear a mask regardless of vaccination or not
Right,
vaccinated.
because a lot of people are getting COVID who have been vaccinated and
Right.
vaccinated again
We're,
and
and we're
boosted.
talking hundreds of thousands of people were packed
Mhm,
in from Thursday to Sunday. It's crazy. So if you're going to
mhm.
go to any cons, people, mask up. Tons of what is it? The
Hand
hand
sanitizer.
sanitizer.
Yeah.
Uh, Try to just do the fist bumps or the elbow bumps, or whatever it is, because you will call that thing what they call comic crud. It's
Oh,
just
familiar with that.
nasty. You never hear. You never want. You just don't know what you know. It's just weird. So just be very careful when you go out there. But it's back. People want to be with the artists and the writers of their favorite books.
I
And San
want to
Diego
be
was
where
very
they
successful.
are.
Very
I want to
successful from what I hear.
see them buying comics. Yeah. I am going to be going to one in September, going to Monroe Pop Fest. I am limiting my exposure. I am now up to 4 autoimmune diseases. I was just recently diagnosed with Hashimoto's and took a leave of absence for my regular job.
Oh no, yeah.
So yeah, I have to reevaluate and rethink a bunch of schedules in the future.
Well, I hope you feel, I mean, I hope it gets better. But yeah, people like you, and you're not the only one. There's a lot of people who have their immune systems are very compromised or can be very compromised, and they have to take extra careful when they go to these big cons that have hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, just be very careful when you go.
My friend Alan Dukes, who has Nerd World Order broadcast out in California, was at San Diego. This is like his guys' weekend,
Mm,
and as a cosplayer, he's a cosplayer. People want to come up to you. They want their picture taken with you. They want
that's
to
right.
hug you. His costume did entail a helmet mask. So I think
Right.
that actually was a smart choice on his part because he did have a little bit of protection there. And
Hey, listen, if you're gonna be dressed up as a Mandalorian or Boba Fett, I think you're gonna be all right. Now if you're gonna be dressed up as as Aquaman and just have swim trunks on, yeah, that might be a little different.
well, you just got to keep everyone at arm's length, right?
Arms length, people. Keep it a
Yeah.
trident length. Right.
Trying to, yeah.
Just, I'm gonna hold the trident. That's as far as you can go. Just I'll just photobomb your picture. How's that?
You know what though? Jason Momoa. When I've never done the VIP thing. I'm just so cheap, and just doesn't think that it's worth it. But I've seen some of the pictures he's taken with fans. Pushing the guy away, grabbing the girlfriend, embracing her,
Right.
hugging her.
Right.
He's so charismatic. He is so cool, and
He plays the role. He plays the role. He knows he's desirable from the women. And guys just think he's cool. So it's all right if you push me away and hug my girlfriend or my wife. It's cool. It's fun. He knows his role. He plays it and he comes off I've never met the guy, but he does come off as a very genuine guy. Every
Yeah.
celebrity that I see, my first thought is, would I want to have a beer with this person? That's how I categorize my how I categorize actually anybody. Can I sit down and have a drink with this guy at a bar?
And
Yeah.
Jason will probably recommend a good beer to you where
I guarantee you he'll probably recommend some good booze and we can just talk normal. For those people who never met a celebrity, my recommendation to you is you talk about everything but their profession, and they'll have no problem talking to you. Um,
I think that William Shatner is a Scotch man.
well, I do like me some scotch, I got to tell you. But
He
that's what I'm trying to say. If you meet a
Oh no,
celebrity,
William Shatner's a fucking asshole. I love him.
yeah, well, that's what's William Shatner. If you do meet a celebrity, and I've met quite a few in my line of work, what I used to do, if you talk to them about anything about other than their profession, if you go like, "Oh, I love you," or "Your song's music is great," but if you like talk about sports or an interest that they have or whatever, they'll look at you differently and go, "Oh, well, he's actually not asking me about the new movie I'm in or something like that. He wants to just talk." They'll talk to you.
Because
They won't blow
celebrities
you
are
off
people too.
because they're people too. You know how many times people go, "I love you," and blah blah blah. No, they want to just talk about regular stuff. They get tired of the same old, you know.
A friend of mine was skiing in Wyoming. He had a ski club, and he had these jackets made, and it's a skull with the skis as the crossbones,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had a patch with all of the places that they've skied. So
Mm-hmm.
he's in this little diner, and in walks Harrison Ford, and there's this woman. She's like, "Oh, I love you so much." She's like, "You'll get over it."
There you go. Right.
And
Funny.
then he sits down and notices my friend's jacket, and he's like, "Have you been to all those places?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "You did the double diamonds?" And he's like, "Oh
There
yeah."
we go. Exactly.
And then he's like, "I want your coat." And he's like, "Sorry." And he's like, "How much for your coat? I'll pay you for it." My friend's like, "It's not for sale. It's you got to be a member of the club."
That's right.
He told Harrison Ford no, and Harrison, you know what? He respected him for it.
I got to tell you, if you don't know someone like Brad Pitt, he's big into architecture.
Hmm.
Um, so if you were ever to meet Brad Pitt, if I was to meet him, I would talk to him about certain architecture that I used to see in downtown Los Angeles, which is there's some really Art Deco stuff there, and he would probably talk my ear off because he's like, "Well, look at that. We're actually talking about something other than a movie,
Me
right?"
flipping my hair on set of Lost City.
Right. So that's my tip to you. Anyways, I
All
digress.
right.
We're,
So
we're,
if
we're
I
getting off
meet
topic.
Brad Pitt, I'm going to tell him,
Talk about
"Hey,
architecture.
I know where there's a Frank Lloyd house.
There we
Come
go.
back to me to my hometown."
See, there you go. Talk to him about that, and he'll probably talk to you about it. So, as we were talking about before we got off topic, and it happens.
Easy to
Shipping,
do.
shipping. So, there's tons of shipping nightmares out there that people will post on these Facebook groups, and I mention Facebook group a lot because I am in a lot of Facebook groups. I don't do Instagram, though I probably should. Maybe I will in the near future, but there are many stories about shipping horror events, especially from eBay. Now you have to understand that there's a lot of people who sell comic books and what have you, but to them it's just money. Um,
Hmm.
so they'll just throw a book in, and that's happened to me. I got a book raw, not bagged, not boarded, in a little package, a little envelope, and they just shipped it. They basically crammed it into a mailbox. They bent it, which will cause spine ticks increases and all that stuff that sometimes pressers will not be able to get out. Um, so it is a crapshoot. I try to really buy stuff from people that I really trust, people who care about their product, people who care about the comic books, and they will ship it like it's going to Fort Knox.
Yes.
100%. So what I do is I ship books the way I want them shipped to me. Bubble wrap, a Gemini mailer. For those who don't know what a Gemini mailer, I think, do you have one there, Heather? What a Gemini mailer is? You have to raise it up a little.
Well, this one is just this one's not a Gemini
No, but it's
brand,
something. It's
but
close to it.
so
So people, that's
your book
yeah.
sits in here.
Yep.
This folds down,
Yep.
and this folds over. So
Yep.
they mailed it like that.
Yep. That's it.
Um,
Gemini mailers are very well known within the community. They should ship a very good book in that. You could probably squeeze quite a few books in there if done right. Do not overstuff it, or you're going to be screwed. But you know, bubble wrapping it, getting it nice and tight, wrapping it with packing tape
or the painter's tape.
or painter's tape is also good.
Being your friend.
I would rather go through hundreds of yarns of 100 yarns of bubble wrap to get to my prize book than to not have anything at all. And the cool thing is about those Gemini mailers, they're not cheap, people. So I reuse a lot of them. And
I do too.
People in the community reuse them all the time, and you can tell. You can when you get a Gemini mailer and it's been around the corner, you can tell it's been reused quite a few times.
Okay, this one is, it's got the brand. They taped the flap shut. They had an extra piece of cardboard on top of the book.
That's right. Some do. Yep.
Yep. They use now the painter's tape is blue, like the generic kind, but the Fryer brand is green.
Yeah. Painter's tape is painter's tape, people.
So,
the reason why people use painter's tape,
and you can see that there's plenty of room to stack more books.
Yeah, there is. It folds out a little bit. It expands. The little closing flap expands.
Yeah.
And for those wondering, people use painter's tape because it is very easy to peel off. It's meant to peel off well, but it's meant to seal paint from seeping through. But it is very easy to peel off.
Right. So after you're done with your drywall, you don't want to rip your paint
off or anything off. Right.
Yeah.
And there it is. You just rip it off.
Yep. Comes right off.
Yeah. Painter's tape is a comic book collector's key, and it keeps things in place without for it to be flipping around.
Painter's tape is your friend.
There are many. If you're selling a bunch of books, if you're selling a stack of books, and you're going to ship it out, the USPS does have boxes, and everything's for free. They have boxes that you fold in, and it becomes a nice square box, and you could, same thing, pack it up with your packing tape and the bubble wrap, and make it nice and tight. You want to make sure you don't have anything sliding back and forth. Shove in stuff in the corners so when you shake it, it does not slide. Even if a book does have bubble wrap, you don't want to have anything to slide and could cause any kind of damage or any kind of bends to the corners. So just make sure everything's nice and tight, and think to yourself, if I was to drop this, would the book be okay? Remember back in high school, I don't know if you did this, but in high school when they did the whole drop the egg from the top of the building, and you would, there was a science for a science class where the students would go on top of the roof and they drop an egg, and you had to design engineer a capsule that will stop the egg from breaking once it hits the ground. So it's almost the same concept. A lot of people get really, really inventive with slabs. They get pool noodles and they slice it in half and they put them on the edges. So basically you have a slab that's encased by pool noodles. Whatever works. I don't care.
Well, here's another type of mailer that I was impressed with.
Yes.
You can still see my book is still in there. We don't kill spiders. So take these books out. And this is Comic Shield. And this holds the book in place. So there's no sliding. So it's not denting against the side to get damaged. And it buffers it along, the edges, so that, if it's getting hit, you're good.
There we go. Listen, there's just do research if you're new to the hobby and you want to start selling and you want to start shipping stuff out there. Just do your research on the Googles, join those comic communities on Facebook, ask questions. You could always ask me. You can find me on Facebook, and just DM me and say, hey, what do you do? Can you show me? I am more than happy to reach out to the community and help those. The comic community should be a community of love for the comic, and always embrace those who want to learn about the comics. So there are many people out there who are more than willing to show you how the proper way to ship.
This is another type of mailer, and it just has these corrugated cardboard that buff the edges, and it just shipped like that.
Yeah, there's different types. Like I said, just type in comic book mailers or cardboard mailers, and you'll get a plethora of them. Buy in bulk if this is going to be your business, and happy shipping. But please,
It's worth the investment. I
it
mean,
is.
someone just sent me pictures that they had mailed a box like this to the artist. The comics were bagged and boarded, but he just stuck it in that USPS first priority mail box,
Yeah, not right.
and the whole side was dented in, and then the corner was crunched in. And so on his books, oops, so he had a stack of comics. He showed me the picture. All these corners were ruined. So this
That's
guy
right.
now has to replace those books. It's a lot of money.
That's right.
The Gemini mailer, at least some kind of mailer. Oh fuck, it's worth the investment. I'm sorry.
And you don't want to do that either, people. Make sure you
My
put your books flat and not hanging in the corner.
my
Don't
mother
be
used to
like
call me
don't be like
Grace.
Heather. Don't be like Heather. You know what? It's funny. If that guy would have done it right the first time, you wouldn't be out of money, right? And that's what it is. And let me tell you, people. I always say people because obviously you guys are the ones listening to us. Uh, Word of mouth could either destroy you or pick you up.
Well,
If you are known as a guy who is a horrible shipper,
it's
your
going to affect
your
your
name
business.
your name will flow out there as do not buy from Jane Doe or John Smith because he packs like shit. And you don't want to do that. You don't have a bad reputation. You want to have, if anything, the reputation of, hey, order from John Smith because he packs like a tank. And kudos to Jane for the way she packs.
Well,
Don't be that
when
other
I
guy.
do an eBay review, I do say how it was packed, and I personally, I mean, this might sound terrible, but this is this is my money, so I have a list of people I won't do business with.
That's right.
It's just a fact.
That's right.
I mean, call me a bitch, whatever you want, but my money.
That's right. No, and listen, everybody wants nice things. You don't want something you paid money for, especially if you paid a lot of money for, and it comes ruined. Um,
And sometimes that seller can't replace it.
and the seller's like, "Sorry, the best I can do is send it back to me, and I'll refund you."
Yeah.
And yeah, is that a fix? Sure, but there's sometimes those people are like, God, I really wanted that book, and it's so hard to find, and this is the only one I could find, and it's damaged. Now you got to refund me.
Then you keep the money, or you keep the book. You ask for a discount, and then you pay to have it pressed. I
That
guess.
too. It
You
all
know?
depends it all depends on the seller. They could say, you know what, keep the book. I'll refund you anyways. Here you go, and my apologies. Now, there's many times that the shipper has nothing to do with what happened. If the book is packed nice and tight, but yet it looks like the delivery guy or woman just completely kicked it through a field goal post and let the dogs do what they want with it. It's not on the shipper, people. It's what can you do? The only thing you can do is put in a claim with the delivery and say, hey, what's this? It looks like you drove a stake through it. You know, um, You fix it. It's not the shipper's fault. You may post it, and please blame the delivery guy, but don't blame the shipper especially if he packed it tight and bubble wrapped it and pool noodled it and put it in titanium case. It's not his fault. Sometimes it just happens that way.
Now, if you're buying from a retailer, they might charge you an extra 50 cents or something to bag and board.
Fine.
So,
it's 50 cents, people. I mean,
it's worth it. To me, it's worth it.
You never want someone to send you a raw book.
I have my own. Well, you know what? On eBay recently, I got a variant cover, and they send it to me raw. But most of the time, I have the book. Here's the board. Here's the bag. You just so easy, right? The first time,
yeah,
you just slide this shit in. God, I haven't used a condom in years.
That's
but it's worth the extra money to protect your book.
For $1, people, get your books bag and boarded. It is what it is. Once again, unless you're one of those people that don't care, you honestly don't care how the book comes, then don't bitch or complain if it comes bent like a wallet. Okay, if that's what you're like, I don't care. I'm just gonna read it and give it to my kid anyways. Then okay, fine.
There's one person I know
complain if it comes bent.
They'll use a top loader, especially if it's artwork.
Yeah,
it's a variant cover and they've done a remark on it.
That's another thing I haven't touched about is depending on the age of your book, either be bronze, silver, gold, silver, bronze, or modern. Many of the bag and boards are accommodating to the size because some books are a little bit larger than others. So the bag and the board might fit nice and tight, maybe a little too snug on a certain book. It might be too loose on a certain book. So what you don't want a book that's too small for the bag and board. So that means the book will be constantly jumping up and down. It can damage the corners and damage the edges.
And when you order your supplies, like I ordered off of Amazon, but you can, wherever. Some people don't like Amazon. It says modern or current here and right here, and then it tells you the size, so you know exactly what you're getting.
Right. So it'll say silver, it'll say bronze, or it'll say modern. Right. So just do your homework before you order a pack of bag and boards because you also want you also want the board to fit the bag.
Yep, so, and even the top loader is telling you the size of the book.
Yeah, so a little bit of homework, people. It doesn't cost much to do a little investigating before you actually buy a whole bulk load of stuff. You're like, great, nothing for it. Now you have to resell it or send it back or whatever.
So I brought all of my stuff to the studio.
Oh, I just realized that our good friends here at Indie Vault has a discount for Gemini mailers. You save 10% if you mention.
Somebody's doing their research.
Yeah, well, it's right in front of me. Yeah, look at that. All right, people. So if you want some Gemini mailers, like what Heather showed you and what I talked about, Indie Vault has some 10%. You save 10% off your order if you mention Bolt 10, BOLT. And the number 10. That's actually kind of cool. Good to know. Because I got to tell you, Gemini mailers are not easy to find, and they can't be very pricey. Especially if you're buying in bulk.
I know one retailer in Arkansas who ran out.
There you go.
And was, apologizing to people for the delay of their stuff, and saying, I checked the surrounding areas. And so people were sending him 10 mailers just so, they could get their book shipped out.
Yo. Right. I want my book, so I'm going to send you some Geminis so you can just ship it back to me.
So, that's funny. As you can see, a long box.
A long box. Yes. Now we're talking about the actual storage of comic books. All right. So
some books I wanted to show off. Where did I put them?
You've probably heard of, and once again, if you know this story, for my collectors out there who've been around since 1925 and have been doing this forever, indulge us. There's a lot of newbies out there who want to get involved, who are trying to learn the lingo and all that stuff. But you may have heard of a short box and a long box. Even in Heather's podcast, it's Heather's long box. So a long box, Heather, you have the long box, right? All right. There you go. It's very good. A little lower, a little lower. There we go. As you can see, it's literally a long box. You can fit quite a few comic books in there. Now, then there's also a short box. The short box is exactly the same as a long box, but guess what? It is shorter. Now, why do people have long boxes compared to short boxes? Well,
because they have good strong backs.
I gotta tell you, obviously the more you fill up a long box, the heavier it gets. Short boxes are easier to stack because you can stack them on top of each other, and they're just easier to carry. Long boxes, as you can see, are significantly bigger, but you can store more stuff. Now, there are specific. Now, you could use those long boxes for your slabs. Okay, you can if you're going to store your slabs, but I think there's tons of boxes that are made strictly for slabs. I think BCW has, and they're actually plastic, so it's like a plastic box, and some of them have grooves in there where you can actually put the slabs in there. And they're a certain height because the slabs are taller than usual. So the slats can actually close, and it's a nice closed tight box. If you were to put a regular slab in those long boxes like Heather showed, you're not going to be able to put the box on it because the slab will be sticking up this much from the box. That's why they have specific boxes for slabs. BCW has them. So if you put in slab box on Amazon or on Google, you'll get them. Tons of people like them. They're easy to carry if you're traveling a lot, if you do a lot of cons, if you're a seller, and you have a booth at a con, they'll pack up their boxes with slabs and these short boxes of the raw books and carry them off. I've seen people's collections where they have rooms and rooms and rooms of nothing but short long boxes, and trust me, it gets heavy. I have a few in my closet, and I'm getting old. I'm downsizing my raws because I can't lift them anymore, and sucks.
No, so these are just two of the boxes that I took out of my climate control storage.
Climate control storage. That's another thing, people. Make sure you. If you live in a state with a lot of humidity, do your homework where you store your boxes. You definitely do not want your boxes in a place that's extremely humid. A lot of people do store them, are very careful with how they store their boxes because humidity will kill it. It'll destroy your book. So
plus also like here in Michigan, even like if you have like an outside storage, in the wintertime, you're still going to, the cardboard, the boxes themselves will absorb the moisture.
Yeah. So once again, if you're doing your homework, do it. If you're going to be storing a lot of boxes and you're like, how's the weather? Do your homework. There's humidifiers. There's a bunch of different stuff you can do. Do not use a humidifier. I take that back. You don't want that. But there's certain ways for you to store your books properly so you don't damage them by the weather.
Yeah, I get 3 climate control storage units and 1 regular storage unit, and I needed to condense because I was paying $156 for a 8x10, and then $190 somewhere else for 20x20.
Yeah. So, you know, going back to shipping, you're going to hear, and you always going to have that one friend or that one group that will always tell you nightmares. Because what I think we touched about it on our last show, there are a lot of unscrupulous people out there who are scammers who will, and this is going to be for a whole different show next time. We're going to talk about scammers. And there are, as we mentioned, Facebook groups strictly on scammers, and they have a certain pattern to try to screw people out of their money. They present books or selling books that are not even theirs. They stole a picture from somebody else's site. They don't want to do goods and services. They want friends or family. Uh, they don't want to show you pictures because their camera's broken or I'm at work or whatever it is. There's certain ways. So what they'll do too is they'll scam you when it comes to the shipping. You pay money for a book, and the book that you get in the mail is not the book that you actually bought. You try to go talk to that guy or that woman, and guess what? They delete their account. You can't get a hold of them anymore, and you feel like a fool because you basically give them free money and you got nothing. So be
I'm
very, very
pissed.
cautious. Very cautious. Maybe on a show coming soon, we're probably going to have hopefully a an admin from one of those scamming sites that will give more insights and what to look out for when it comes to buying and buying comics from people who are online.
Now we are a little past an hour.
Yes.
How are you on time? Are you okay?
I'm okay unless you had something else more to talk about or just some
Well,
good stuff.
I just wanted to show off something that I had gotten in the mail
Yes, let's show off.
yesterday. I had no mail today, even though Amazon says my Cujo book came.
Okay.
So hopefully tomorrow. But if, yes, so I purchased some comics from a friend, and everyone knows I'm a Wonder Woman person.
The other way. There we
Can you
go.
see it? Okay. Now I got
That's
to
right.
hold it
'Cause
for the camera because you're on the
you're a
computer.
Wonder Woman fan, right?
Oh yes. This is a variant cover that they did. Oops, wrong way. Yeah, so this goes in line with my collection. I have like most of them except for just a couple here and there. So replacing
Great
some of
cover.
those.
Great cover.
Um, I showed my daughter. She's like, "Oh yeah, this looks like you, mom."
Like who? Oh, like you.
Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, that's your hair."
Yeah, that's good. Well, actually, she might not be lying.
Kids.
And your nails.
So my friend threw this in for me.
What a nice guy. Look at that. Why? I'm assuming you didn't ask for that, but he threw it in anyways.
I have a couple of lady deaths. This one was hard. This is a variant cover. It was really hard to find a price. Google kept saying that no one had it for sale, and we had to look it up
Yeah,
on one of those sites that you type in your inventory.
very cool.
And this is a variant cover. When I looked this up, it was only like an exclusive in a box for the month of July. So I don't know if many people have seen this Daredevil cover yet.
Yeah, that is the Comic Tom exclusive. Comic Tom is a very popular podcaster and very well known in the community. And he does some exclusive. He gets together with certain artists, and he does that is an exclusive. Yeah, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. You know what?
Well,
It's a very fun hobby. If you're just getting into it, I will always say what I always tell people: collect what you love, collect what you want. If you're collecting to make money, do so. If you're collecting a certain run or a certain superhero or even supervillain, do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you're collecting wrong because there's no such thing as collecting wrong. If that is the case, then I'm collecting wrong. I shouldn't be slabbing or buying slabs because that's wrong collecting. No such thing.
No, it's very subjective. It's
Very
on what
subjective.
you want or what you like. Some people just will, buy a whole collection and go through it and sell off what they don't want, or, um, you know, buy something in bulk because they're not married to it. They just want one or two copies for themselves.
That's right. All right. There you go, people. You heard it from Heather's mouth.
Well, thank you for joining me today. We can talk later about getting with our guest regarding the scammers, and if you have any recourse for that.
And the other thing too, people, if there's a certain topic that you would want Heather to talk about, if you want her to talk about, we haven't even touched about the movies and the TV shows and the comic world out there. I mean, that is a 7 hour show as it is. We haven't talked about Umbrella Academy or The Boys or Thor: Love and Thunder or what's coming down the pike in the new MCU Phase 5 and Phase 6. That's a whole.
On the group page, I did post an article that talked about some of the announcements at San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah.
But some people go to our group page, Heather's Long Box, over on Facebook, and other people just listen to us while they're driving or something.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you could always jump on her website, on her Facebook group, Heather's Long Box, and throw in some suggestions. What do you want her to talk about? What do you want? Would you like to see me back on and banter with her on those topics? I'll be more than happy to do so. Like I said, I already have a podcast. I have a podcast every Wednesday with other fellow hosts. I'm a guest host as well on Comic Fanzine every Wednesday night, 10 East Coast. We also have artists and Kickstarters, and we talk about what the latest movie is. Little shameless plug there. But hey, you know what? It's all love in the community. We all plug each other. We all want each other to succeed. And that's what it's all about, people.
And you're going to find, even though you have, people scattered all across the United States and in Canada and overseas, other countries and stuff, it really is a very small community, because word of mouth travels fast.
I always say it on my podcast, on the podcast, is that the comic community is a large, small community, large in quantity, but small because everybody knows each other. Everyone sees the same names, everyone sees the same artists, the same people. So word of mouth is huge. Be good. Try not to be a scammer. Treat everyone right because you never know who's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
Well, some people just say grin and bear it, but that's another subject.
That's another subject. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.